Hello and welcome. This video is brought to you by thestreamingadvisor.com. Tailor your entertainment with streaming. This is the long version, sort of the director's cut of a video looking at the difference between Apple TV and Roku. They're both popular platforms. Roku is the more popular one, but we're going to take a deep dive into Roku and a deep dive into Apple TV in this video. If you want to see a shorter version, there is one out there. We'll link it in the description. Starting off, we're going to look at the Roku App Store. Finding things to watch is a really big deal, and finding the apps with your programming is really important. And we have always liked the Roku App Store. If you notice, there is a lot to it, from the early things like recommended apps or kind of the hot apps to apps broken down by the kinds of apps that they are. Like you'll see in this movies and TV section, you've probably heard of most of the apps you see here. And if you haven't, it just means that you're not quite as plugged in with the app world. But you see apps for major TV networks and major services like Netflix or HBO, things like that. What that's doing is the top apps in any given category are right there at the top of the screen, while it filters out less well-known apps. You can see by the ratings, 70 ratings for the Ozzie and Harriet app versus thousands for something like HBO Max. You can get a feel for what's out there and what's at least the most popular, the most used. And that's how the entire App Store is set up. It's called the streaming channels. Not the channel stores, the streaming channels. But within this, there are dozens of app groups, about 16 to 18, depending on how they do it. Each one has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apps. Its home screen has a very basic, simple settings section that allows you to see everything you need to get into without too much exploring. When it's time to explore something to watch, I like to look for, no matter what thing I'm using, Batman, because it's such a universally understood and known property. Let's say you want to watch Batman. There's no telling exactly what you want, but maybe you're looking for this one, the 1989 Batman, and you'll see that Roku presents multiple ways to rent it, as well as showing you which subscription service has it. You might also note that there's multiple price points. Most are $3.99, but you see that one is $3.49. It also shows you how you can see it. Each of these services, it shows you the service, and it'll show you watch in HD, watch in HD, watch in 4K. This is helpful because if you're looking for a piece of content, and maybe you don't want to subscribe to HBO Max outright, but you want to see The Dark Knight, you can rent it, you can buy it, you can have it in your digital catalog. The search on Roku is multifaceted, and one of the cool things I like about it is it has something called zones. Zones, if you think about like the old days, is like the section of the video store dedicated to any given thing. Horror movies, sci-fi movies. And in this case, it even breaks things down by the type of movies. Like, there's a Jurassic Park zone. And if you jump into the Jurassic Park zone, what you find is links to where you can find all of these Jurassic Park movies. Looks like HBO Max is a hub for Jurassic Park, at least the classic Jurassic Park movies from the 90s. If you can really call it Jurassic Park 3 a classic movie. Looks like the original Jurassic Park is only available for rent or through Spectrum's app. Often when you see something like Spectrum listed, what it actually means is that it's something that's available through a TV channel that's on Spectrum, which often means if you have something like Fubo TV or Hulu, Sling TV, you might actually be able to stream it on demand through those also. It just matters where you're getting it from. But again, you can see that all of these things are available through multiple places, and that is a really, really helpful thing to know. There are also things that are totally free, and you can find them as recommendations because, they're thinking if you like Jurassic Park, you might like Twister. You'll see Twister's available through Tubi, and which is completely for free. Or if you have a subscription to HBO Max, you can watch it with that commercial free. And it goes like that for all of these titles. You also might see the Roku channel listed here and there. Roku channel is a big part of what Roku is doing now, and we're going to look a lot more deeply into that during the video. But the idea that you can compare multiple services for one title is really unique for Roku. You'll see that it includes Apple TV. We have the Vudu store, Redbox. The thing about Roku is that it doesn't have its own video service. It's not like Apple with iTunes or Google with its own video store. So what they're good at is helping you find content and helping you find multiple places to watch it, and then putting it right there one click away. You can see that the Harry Potter zone is pretty extensive, but it's going to be like that for most anything you click on. Here on the golf zone, right from the top, it's talking about live TV services. If you want to get ESPN or CBS, where you're going to find the Masters, it's right there. There are a lot more golf movies than I realized. Looks like there's tons to see. Never heard of the Caddy. And I've never heard of retro reels. And see, this is another strength of Roku. Roku has the most, from what I've been able to tell, the most apps on any platform. And its multiple searches show you things from stuff that you might have never heard of. A lot of services and a lot of apps and platforms will jump in and you can find something that's on Hulu or Spectrum or Netflix, no problemo. But some small service that maybe only has 50 titles or something like that may never show up. A good free service, for instance, or even a subscription service that's just a couple of dollars a month. It doesn't show up in the algorithm. But with Roku, it does. And that's a really, really cool aspect of it. You see that it just breaks down things. It has multiple sports. And here we're looking at the pro basketball zone. And like the other, it shows you apps where you can find actual live pro basketball. You got your documentaries about pro basketball. Not all that many, but they're there and you can find them. There's actually a whole lot of zones, and they add them over time. It didn't start off with as many zones as it's got right now. You see, like I said, some are based on specific movies, and then you've got something like the horror movies zone. It's funny because there's probably people watching this video that never ever saw a video store with the movies sitting out there and either has VHS boxes or DVD Blu-ray boxes. But this is the way that people used to look for things all the time. And with this, it kind of recreates that for you and helps you get into things. The zones, I think they're an invaluable part of what Roku does. Something else that Roku does is I like that it puts the channels right out where you can find them. So if you want to find the Roku channel, which we're going to look at next, it's right there. You just scroll on down. It isn't buried. It isn't, stuck in a row somewhere. It's right here. And what you see with the Roku channel is it puts a ton of content from multiple sources all in one place for you to find. And you see here, it even jumps into zones. Jumps into the horror zone there. But all of these shows are available through something on Roku. A lot of them are exclusive to the Roku channel. Some of them are on other streaming services that Roku partners with. But you can see where things are from by clicking on them or even just scrolling through them. This live TV section is built into the Roku channel. It's what they call a FAST, a free ad-supported streaming service. The Extraordinary Christmas Stare is actually an original from Roku. They picked up NBC's show Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. This subscription section is something else that Roku channel does. You can sign up for streaming services, like premium streaming services. You're going to get your bill from Roku. It helps you kind of keep up with things. And here we have characters from the world of kids television. If it makes you shudder, you're not alone. There's, what's his name? Blippi? But they're out there. If your kids want to find them, they're going to be able to zoom right in on that content, and you can, run away and hide so that you don't have to get those songs stuck in your head. But the Roku channel on its own has tons of stuff, even karaoke, as you see here. So it's really unique. It also has its own basic menu, kind of modeled after what you see on the Roku, where you can zoom in on specific things. Like I said, Roku has a lot of original content. A lot of it came from when they bought the service Quibi. They bought all of Quibi's original stuff that they released and then went out of business with. But it also has its own originals. It has tons of live TV. Those live TV things are through services like Pluto. You see that it has the kids section on its own. So this is going to be any of that kids programming that we were kind of running across, along with the infernal characters selections. It even breaks things down by categories and age groups, which is helpful because, of course, there's a big difference between a 10-year-old kid and a 2-year-old kid. The premium section here is, like I was saying before, but then it shows you things that you can watch on these premium channels. So maybe you didn't realize that a specific show was on Stars. Then you find it there and go, oh, that's what everybody was talking about. Here you basically have another way into the zones. It's still within the Roku channel, but it's essentially the zones. It even has the Greatest American Hero, believe it or not. There's a lot of free TV out there. And there's a lot of TV that's available without spending all that much money. Your search in the Roku channel is specifically searching the Roku channel. This isn't your overall Roku search that we were demonstrating before. But because there's so much content now, if you're looking for something like we're looking for like Sonic the Hedgehog, this is going to show you all of the places where you find that Sonic the Hedgehog content. And it just jumps right in because it's all available through the Roku channel or through apps that are partnered within the Roku channel. So you sign up for it one click with whatever you have your Roku set up to charge you with. So the Roku channel is a powerful tool and it's getting more and more popular. In fact, you can even find the Roku channel on some other devices. In general, though, Roku is pretty simple, and it's what they call it's like service agnostic. When you get into the settings here, you get a better feel for exactly what Roku does behind the scenes. And you can get a feel for ease of use. For instance, adding a payment method. If you change your credit card from whatever you registered with originally, or forget to add it when you're setting up, you can add it directly from the screen on the Roku. You just choose a card, you type it in through their menu. And that's a really cool feature because, you need to update things now and then. You don't have to have a credit card on file, not really, not a current one. But it helps when you're signing up for things. You can add things to your menu, which we're doing right here. Roku can have a pretty basic menu, or you can put different ways to access content on the home screen. We just added some things. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Starting with featured free here. The featured free is kind of like the Roku channel. It came out a little bit, I think it came out after the Roku channel. What the difference between featured free and the Roku channel is kind of that featured free has a lot of different sources that you don't openly find with the Roku channel. Some of the same ones. You'll definitely see some repeated titles here. But it's just another way to point you in the direction of things that you can watch. With featured free, you find more things from TV Everywhere apps, like say the ABC app or the NBC app. Things that will allow you to watch specific shows, maybe even just a selection of shows that then require you to log in. But by the way, if you want a real uplifting movie, do not watch The Road. Wow. If you just want to feel bad about yourself, check it out. Well made, but my goodness. Watch series premieres for free is something that allows you to see things that are based out of specific networks that maybe you can't watch the whole series, but you can watch the first one. The live TV selection, that you see that it's the live TV zone. Roku actually has a live TV channel grid. I'm not going to jump into it because that just gets into funk with YouTube, and I don't want to get on the wrong side of them. But Roku actually has a fully functioning 100 or so channels of live streaming content. It's the same thing that you see in the live section, but it is just organized in a more traditional TV way. So like where you see live there, you'll find that in the grad. The movie store is powered by Vudu. Roku doesn't actually have its own movie app. There's not a Roku movie service the way that there's something like iTunes movies or Amazon on-demand movies. But they work with partners like Vudu and have a Vudu TV store. My feed is a way to follow movies, and when they are available for any given service, it will let you know. So, we put in Necessary Roughness a while back. It wasn't available anywhere. Now it is, and it shows you where. It says it's available through subscription services, but I don't see anything like HBO Max or anything listed. So that one might be wrong. I don't know. But as you go through, when a movie's often it's helpful when a movie is still playing. Let's say you want to see Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. You put it in there, and once it drops onto Disney Plus, it'll show up. See, Coraline was available for free, for instance. Home Alone, boom, available through Disney. Or renting at different prices. So see, I think that you get a good feel for what Roku is doing here. And it's pretty extensive. It also has a lot of important accessibility features. It has a running kind of an on-screen reader. It has multiple options for closed captioning so that you can make the font bigger, you can make it brighter, things like that. It has multiple languages. Little tip, don't change the language just to be funny. If you change it to Czech, you might have trouble finding your way around your Roku afterwards. If you make that mistake, you might need to reset it. And that's just the long and short of that. So please, don't change the language to Russian just to see what it looks like unless you understand exactly where you're going to change everything back. I think the Roku offers a lot of power and a lot of flexibility. It's got multiple price points, from $29 to about $99 on paper. Really, I've seen the Roku Ultra on sale so many times for $79.99. It's almost as though that's the actual price. But there is a lot to work with here. There are a lot of ways to customize it and make it fun, make it yours. Roku's AirPlay feature is really cool. What this allows you to do is play content from an iOS device, like an iPhone or an iPad, even using a computer, like a Mac computer. You can send the content directly to your Roku, and basically it allows you to see a whole lot more stuff than you might be able to see just on the thousands of apps they offer. It also works with the screen mirroring section here to do the same thing for Android phones and computer screens. Both of those are cool extras that have gotten better and better as Roku has gone on. If you have the latest operating system for everything, your latest iOS, your latest Android, your latest Windows, you're going to find that there's a lot to work with, including USB media. Roku is one of few things that supports accessing USB drives. So that's another one. Especially something like the Roku Ultra has a USB port so that you can have your own content from wherever it was and jump in on it. Moving forward with Apple TV, you'll notice at the top that it's obviously an Apple environment. Those logos should look very familiar to anybody who uses iOS devices. There's your iTunes TV shows, that's Apple Arcade, that's the famous App Store. And you'll notice as you scroll through that it doesn't look altogether different from Roku in that you have the rows of apps kind of in a grid system. The difference between one and the other is actually there is less advertising built into the Apple TV screen, and you see a couple of more apps. You can see about 15 full app squares or rectangles versus 9 on the Roku. Apple TV has support for a ton of apps, again, thousands of apps, and they all work well. It has games, it has your standard video apps, and you see that you can get around pretty quickly because Apple's controllers allow you to do just both clicking through, like using a cross sort of control, and sliding as though you're like it's touch sensitive, the way that a mouse or a laptop pad or something like that is, even emulating what you kind of get with a tablet. So that actually helps you jump in and out of the sections of the screen quickly. So you zoom, you bounce back and forth. And that's pretty cool because as you get more and more apps, you might just want to get to the top of the screen, and zipping up there that way is pretty helpful. You also might notice what we've got down there. Under Photos, we've got Free. And what that is it's a folder. With the Apple TV, you can create folders to put apps in and group things together. All of those apps are free apps. We created that folder. And after you have a folder, you can add other things to it simply by holding down the main OK button in the middle and pressing the play button. You can now move it into another folder. What this means is that technically you could have an Apple TV with, say, 6 folders based on different things: news services, movie services, sports services. And instead of having a big screen full of lots and lots and lots of apps, you could have a screen with your main settings and 6 folders all organized together. You'd still have to file through all the apps in the folders, so it might not serve as good a purpose as you might hope it would, but you can have things organized really quickly. And honestly, this is the only app sort of system like that I've seen do that. Looks like the old Amazon shopping app is no longer working. Fire TV has an Amazon shopping app, but I guess they don't want Apple to have one anymore. using something like this, though, you can do a lot of shopping, and I think we're going to explore that a little later. The Apple Events section is cool. They've now built this into the Apple TV app. But if you're a big Apple fan and you want to see when they do their big debuts, like when they show you all the new iPhones or Mac updates and things like that, they're all available through their Apple Events section. And so that's cool. You can watch it live. You can watch replays. You can even go back years and see old Apple events when they were first introducing new things. Now, every streaming device needs an app store, and Apple's got one. The thing about it is, I'm not real good with it. I think that it's lacking a lot of things. Now, its search is easy enough to use. You see that it has an alphabetized A to Z sort of listing. And if you know exactly what you're looking for, like let's say you want Philo, you start typing it in, it comes right up, and that's going to be the case with pretty much any app you want that is provided for Apple. If you specifically ask for it, it's going to give it to you. But I find that its app store is not nearly as intuitive as anything else that I've used, and that includes Fire TV, the Google TV, Android TV, and Roku. Like, you start off with a Now Streaming section here, but the Now Streaming section is, there's no real order or reason to it. Your Stay Informed section is mostly news, and yet they put Pokemon TV right next to the Washington Post on the same row where you find CNN, ABC. I don't know if that's a commentary on what they think of all of these news sources that they would put, a Pokemon update channel right next to it, but I don't know. That's strange. It seems like it should be more in a kids section, doesn't it? They have all your main sports apps in an obvious section. But this is lacking is the kind of really well categorized sections that you find on a Roku. So if looking for apps and app discovery is important to you, you want to pay attention to this. For instance, here's the categories. What do we have? 2, 4, 6, 7. This is all of them. This is this is all of the categories. And when you click on something like, let's say, entertainment, I would expect to find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apps, right? But instead, you have your Now Streaming section. You've got this one, about Disney Plus and more to explore. But where's everything else? Where's the see all? Because they offer a whole lot more than the couple of things that are listed here. Oh, now there's that Pokemon app again. Pokemon must have paid them something. But that's not all the entertainment apps they've got. They've got lots and lots of entertainment apps. And the thing is that if you use an iPad, it's much easier to find things. And that goes the same across all of their sections. On top of that, their paid and free sections don't make a lot of sense to me. But if you're looking for shopping, you might not be able to shop with Amazon, but they do have a whole group of shopping apps that allow you to jump in. You can even look for cars on Auto Trader. I'm not going to jump in on Auto Trader, but this is just screenshots. That gives you kind of a feel for it. Hope you're not looking for a used car, because they're more expensive than new cars. It's a sign of our times. But in general, that's an interesting sort of thing. You have to have a card on file with Apple. This all uses your Apple ID. If you're not familiar with Apple ID, then it probably means you don't already have an iOS device. But Apple ID is something you've got to set up separately with an email address, and you put in a credit card and a password and all of those sorts of things. Apple TV also, of course, pushes you towards Apple services like the Apple Arcade. Apple Arcade is a paid gaming service. Most of the games on Apple Arcade are going to require you to have some sort of an controller that will work with it. It's got to be a Bluetooth controller. Apple does sell controllers, if you like. They're not Apple branded, but they're designed to work with Apple TV. Your purchased section is apps that you have used on something. So, if you've got an iPad, an iPhone, anything with Apple apps on it, you can find it here, along with things that maybe you used to have on the Apple TV. If you get it brand new, you're not going to have anything that you used to have. But otherwise, you're going to find it here. That's cool to re-add things that you used to have, and maybe you don't feel like searching too hard for them. You can go in, and oddly enough, the apps you used to have are organized the way that I like it, with categories. There's more entertainment things that we used to have on there than there is listed in the new section where you would add an app and sign up for a service. But hey, Apple, it's your boat. Steer it where you want. Discovery is important. Content discovery. And I just don't think that Apple does enough with it. I'm not sure why, but they just kind of miss it on that. There is a lot out there. The thing is that it's always going to reroute you towards Apple things. And we're going to show you what we mean. So let's go in and look at the search. When you go into Apple search, just like with Roku, let's look for Batman the way that we did with Roku. So there's the Batman 1989 movie. The first thing you see is buy or rent. And guess who you're buying and or renting from? That would be Apple. It's not going to present you with Apple and Vudu and Amazon and various other things. It's Apple. Like I said, it's their playground, their sandbox. If you just want to stream it with a subscription app, it still pushes you towards HBO Max, at least. But this doesn't have the ability then to check things out under different price points. The price points weren't wild, but sometimes I've seen movies that are $10 to rent and $5 to rent, depending on what you were using it on. And it goes along that way throughout. Here you have the Superman Batman film set. I'm not sure what that includes. Oh, the Richard Donner cut. But, in this case, it's kind of nice. It's like a big box set. You're talking about 11 movies for $50. That's not bad. But again, where is it coming from? Apple. Just Apple. People who are big into Apple already, they might not mind it. Maybe they prefer to have everything through iTunes. You can be pretty sure that Apple isn't going to cancel iTunes anytime soon. I just think it's lacking. I'm not real happy with the fact that all it tells you is Apple. And I think that people appreciate the choice. Let's just look for the. So many things called, the something. The Lost City. Now this is available through Paramount. Paramount Plus has The Lost City. And even though Paramount streams The Lost City, the first place you come to is a place to buy The Lost City. Even though you see there, try Paramount for free. You can get it for free or pay $9.99 to rent it. Now, of course, you're going to have to cancel Paramount before it starts charging you. But even on that, take a look. When you say sign up for it, it says 1 month free, then $9.99 a month. What that means is that Apple TV is pushing you towards Paramount Plus's premium version, the commercial-free premium version of their app. There is a Paramount Plus version that's only $4.99. It has some commercials, not many. And Apple TV is saying, hey, you want Paramount Plus? It costs $10. And I find that misleading. Maybe you want commercial free, and that's fine. But why the reason they're doing that is because Apple gets a percentage of the money that people are paying towards Paramount Plus. So what they want is a higher percentage, or at least a percentage of a higher amount, versus saying, would you like to sign up for $4.99 or would you like to sign up for $9.99? I just feel like Apple TV kind of cuts the choice out of things. If that's important to you, then you should really know that. Now let's get into settings. The settings are pretty straightforward, and I do appreciate that. While you have to find the little gear versus finding settings on a menu, and you could accidentally lose the gear, once you get into them, there's a lot to work with. There's a voiceover section, which is like like a screen reader. It has multiple ways to make it easier for people who are visually impaired or hearing impaired to get around the device. Everything from changing the size and boldness of the text to changing, how easy it is to see things behind the primary. There's multiple layers on a lot of apps like this, and maybe you don't want to see what's behind what you're looking at. The audio description is a big deal. That's something that allows people to watch movies and TV shows that have audio description built in. Not everything does, but the ability to do that makes a big difference for those who need it. I have friends who swear by that as a option, and if you know people in that situation, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, hey, God bless. It's fine. But it's definitely worth mentioning. It's nice that you can go into settings here and see what things are going to look like on the screen as you change them over. But oddly enough, there's some inconsistency in this, and that you notice we choose different things. Let's say casual. Go casual, Menlo. I'm not even going to try to say that word, but you'll notice that the little demo screen on the left does not change. In Roku, it did. You could actually see the difference. You could see how big it was, how small it was. And yet in others, things work just fine. So I'm not sure what they're going at there. Maybe they didn't have those options built in for every single descriptor there. But in general, Apple TV is disabled friendly. So that could be a real factor for users. Not everything is as disabled friendly as this, especially seeing disabled, sight disabled. So that is a feel for what you can find on Apple TV and Roku. As you see, both devices offer a lot. As far as app discovery, I think Roku's got it beat hands down because of how much easier it is to use the App Store. And as far as finding free content, which a lot of people like because they might be getting into streaming to save money. Maybe they've cut cable and they want to be able to find their favorite shows without having to pay too much for them. Roku, I think, has Apple beat on top of that. Apple, on the other hand, has a sleeker look. You see that it's got a couple of different themes, a light theme and a dark theme. You can even set it up so that it looks different at night than it does during the day. But in general, I don't like, as far as I'm concerned, the way that Apple keeps pushing you towards the Apple operating system or the Apple universe. I think when you look for a movie, the first thing that shows up shouldn't be rent it from iTunes. I think it should be where you can find it. And the little notation about Apple recommending the premium service for something that's on Paramount, I find that a little problematic. I haven't been able to look through every single thing and see if it does that in every single situation, but the fact that it does it there it's just a bit disingenuous. It's saying, hey, come spend money. Little note, don't change your regions around. Do not change your languages. You'll regret it. On the Roku or the Apple TV, do not say Russian just for fun, because then you might get lost in the menus and not be able to do anything about it. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Apple TV does support the same thing that Roku does as far as AirPlay goes. You can use your Apple devices, computers, and iOS devices to stream anything that's on those screens to your Apple TV. But overall, like I said, I think Roku's the winner. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please subscribe, share this video with your friends, and as always, I'm Ryan Downey, the Streaming Advisor. Stream on, my friends.